Slenderman, one of the most important characters in internet horror history, he stood and still stands as a pillar for internet horror. Creepypastas, more specifically, which have died out over time, but they still remain as an old statue covered in moss. Now, to give you a bit of information on who/what Slenderman is, I think I better go a little more in depth on it. Even though you might already know, it'll just give you a bit of a refresher. Slenderman, an iconic figure that emerged from the digital shadows of the internet, made its initial appearance in 2009 on the Something Awful forums. Created by user Eric Knudsen, I think that's how you say it, the character swiftly captured the collective imagination of online communities, morphing into a haunting symbol that transcends its virtual origins. The Slenderman phenomenon, which you've definitely seen before, you know, all those old edited pictures, which it's like a bunch of kids at a playground, you see Slenderman in the background. Well, it's characterized by eerie imagery and an intricate mythos, has left an indelible mark on internet culture and storytelling. Visually, Slenderman is often depicted as a towering, slender figure with a blank, featureless face and tentacle-like appendages. His minimalist yet profoundly unsettling design laid the foundation for an expansive narrative that has permeated various forms of media, solidifying his status as a digital boogeyman in sorts. His character is commonly portrayed as a malevolent force capable of inducing paranoia and nightmares, with tales often weaving a web of mystery around his origins and motives. A distinct aspect of Slenderman lore is the introduction of proxies. These are individuals believed to be under Slenderman's influence, serving as conduits for his ominous will. This concept adds layers of complexity to his narrative, allowing storytellers across the internet to explore the psychological and supernatural dimensions of the Slenderman mythos. Beyond its digital roots, the Slenderman phenomenon seeped into the real world, influencing a diverse array of creative expressions. This character has inspired video games, short films, art installations, and reality and alternate reality games, showcasing the adaptability and transformative power of internet-created content on the broader cultural landscape. The Slenderman mythos also invites reflection on the blurred lines between fiction and reality. While Slenderman is undeniably a fictional creation, its influence has transcended the digital realm, prompting discussions on the psychological effects of internet folklore and ethical considerations of creative expression. A key example of this phenomenon would be the Slenderman stabbings, which occurred not even 45 minutes from my house from where I lived at the time, in Waukesha, Wisconsin. I thought about covering that in this video, but it's looking at the broader psychological effects of internet creations, such as Slenderman, which had so much effort put into it that it was widely believed by many people, including myself as a kid, that this motherfucker was a real individual. Slenderman stands as a testament to the dynamic nature of internet culture, where a simple creation can involve a multifaceted mythos that resonates across diverse audiences. As an enigmatic symbol that bridges the virtual and tangible worlds alike, Slenderman continues to captivate storytellers and audiences alike, leaving an enduring legacy in the ever-evolving landscape of digital folklore. Slenderman's origins can arguably be traced down to, very, very early Germany in the 18th century, which I believe most of these had been photoshopped, except for one of them. A lot of the photos that you've definitely seen have obviously been photoshopped, but I'm going to take this as something that a lot of people who do believe in Slenderman actually consider to be part of his power, that he can take old artwork and tapestry from old folklore and transcend them into his own will. Even though these are done by humans, well, Slenderman has had quite the diverse array of effects on real people in the real world. This creepypasta can actually follow the Tulpa effect, which, if you don't know, the Tulpa effect is if enough people believe in something, that thing can actually manifest in the real world. I actually tried to do some digging on the Tulpa effect, but I couldn't find out what the origins of the Tulpa effect were. There's this YouTube channel called Tulpa Effect, which has not uploaded a video in 5 years, but I can't really find anything pertaining to that. The concept of Tulpa originated in Tibetan Buddhism. The earliest written forms of documentation I could find on this are in the late 1800s and early 1900s. The very concept of Tulpa goes as follows. where it is believed that through intense concentration, meditation, and spiritual practice, an individual can create a thought, form, or a very being. This entity, known as Tulpa, is said to be imbued with the creator's intentions and can eventually take on a life of its own. While traditionally associated with religious and spiritual practices, the idea of tulpas have found new interpretations in contemporary cultural psychology. In modern contexts, tulpas are often compared to imaginary friends or thought forms that are deliberately created through sustained mental focus and visualization. Some individuals engage in the practice of creating tulpas as a form of mental discipline, self-exploration, or even as a means of companionship. The belief is that through sustained concentration and intention, these tulpas can manifest as independent, sentient beings with their own thoughts, feelings, and personalities. It's important to note that the concept of tulpas is subjective and varies widely among different belief systems and cultural contexts. So, modern westernized tulpa effects would be completely different to Tibetan Buddhist envisions of tulpa. While some proponents claim that tulpas can become fully independent entities, this is a controversial assertion that lacks empirical evidence. Furthermore, the very idea of tulpas raises intriguing questions about the nature of consciousness, the power of focused thought, and the boundaries between imagination and reality. Pretty interesting stuff, I would say personally, but now that we've gone over the basic concept of Slenderman and possible effects that may have brought him to light in some individuals' eyes, not my own, we have to go over where it all started. I'd gone over the original creation of Slenderman, his creepypasta and his games, his effects, and whatnot, but it's important to note something that really brought him into the forefront. In other words, how Slenderman had become real in a sense. Slenderman himself, or themself, takes a pretty big level of flexibility, having his main draw being that he can alter reality and warp time and space in a sense. All the effects that you see brought forth front for Slenderman, such as affecting technology, causing headaches, stalking his victims, comes from a series called Marble Hornets, which it seems like Marble Hornets follows the story of a man being stalked by Slenderman. There's well over 80, almost 90 entries of this series, and they're all great. Some of them are as short as 30 seconds long, and some of them are as long as 15 minutes. I haven't watched the entire thing, but I've watched a pretty good chunk of this, and I remember a lot of it from when I was younger. But for the sake of the video, I had gone back and watched about 5 to 10 of these things. In this series, you're also introduced to proxies. Proxies are essentially servants/slaves directly under Slenderman. I'm going to be pulling this entire excerpt directly from the Wikipedia, so keep that in mind. Proxy, plural proxies, is the term given to those who serve the Slenderman. The theory behind the name is that proxies are entities or people who are under the influence or control of the Slenderman, or the same force that influences Slenderman, and act based on its wants and needs. Hence, proxies serve as an in-between, i.e. a proxy for Slenderman. It is suspected that proxies do the actual physical work for Slenderman, such as creating and manipulating objects, destroying and leaving evidence, creating videos and responding on Twitter, in ARGs, and influencing victims as needed. Despite popular belief, proxies are essentially little more than slaves. They are simple-minded, controlled humans who do not gain any unnatural properties other than their behavior. Most proxies are completely unaware of their nature, as their memories are suppressed by the Slenderman, and those who do find out they are proxies are often horrified to learn of what mind control that had occurred. Very few proxies retain any of their personality while being forced into servitude, as most adopt a separate personality altogether, sometimes completely opposite of their real personality. This may be a method in which Slenderman helps them prevent remembering their actions. This alternate personality can range anywhere from sadistic to completely emotionless. Many proxies seem to figuratively, or sometimes literally, worship Slenderman while under his control. Whether this is a means of keeping them obedient or a result of an inflated ego is unknown, although the former may be more likely. Some stories report proxies who have either failed or who outlived their usefulness, later being destroyed to prevent them from becoming a problem later on. In somewhat rare cases, fans will report Slenderman possessing a proxy completely, taking full control of the individual to the point where they become nothing more than a vessel for Slenderman's own mind. Now, there are different ranks for the proxies. The blogosphere. Oh god, I'm not going to go over this video. I might go over it later if this goes over well. Anyway, the blogosphere, which is essentially a shared canon between everyone who makes a story or puts in, shit about Slenderman. The blogosphere in its story eventually fleshed out a system for ranks of its proxies, while other sources traditionally only had one or two. The blogosphere went through a period where runners would be hunted by large packs of proxies. This actually led to criticisms claiming that the proxies took the focus away from the Slenderman itself, and that the proxy hordes made the stories resemble too much of a zombie apocalypse fiction. Some blogs made efforts to retcon proxy hordes away as hallucinations. The ranking system is as follows: Hollowed, which is the lowest on the bunch. Mindless puppets created by Slenderman for the harassment of runners with no other purpose. Next up is Berserkers, which is most closely resembling the tradition perception of proxy slaves to Slenderman, but Berserkers have enough will of their own to have superior problem solving and tactics. 3 Sleepers, which you could argue are the most deadly, have their original personalities kept intact and are left unaware of their status of proxies. Agents, not proxies in the traditional sense, agents appear to be the blogosphere interpretation of cultists. Now Revenants, proxies with super strength and regenerative abilities granted to them by Slenderman, eventually became unpopular with bloggers and were retconned away as hallucinations. Now there is so much shit, but hey, I'm editing this. I initially was actually going to go over all the known proxies and shit like that, but that would require an entirely different video on itself, because that's condensing an hour and a half worth of information down into 6 or 7 minutes, and I can't do that. I can't do it with the information being accurate. And since all these proxies are such things, and all these proxies were regular people at one point, you could see why people would think that they could be proxies. Like with the Slenderman stabbings in 2014, where one of the girls mentioned to the other that they should be proxies and live in Slender Mansion. Obviously, when it comes to IRL instances, the Slenderman stabbings are obviously the most well-known, but I'm sure there's others, and maybe I could find them if I did some more digging. Now, that's all for this video, and I really hope you enjoyed. I spent a lot of time on this, and who knows, maybe if this video does well, maybe I'll push out something else like this. Anyway, I really thank you guys for watching if you made it all the way to the end, and yeah, that's about it. See ya.